ladies, welcome back to my channel. So today I decided to pick a random comment from one of my videos to reply to and make a video. I will try to do this at least once a month. I guess this is my replying to comment series. But before I get into the comment and before I reply, like this video, subscribe to my channel, turn on the bell notification, okay? Turn on the notification so that you know when I upload a video. So the question is, or the comment, can you please make a video on emotional labor at work? You mentioned in this video that that sounds interesting, and I don't think anyone has covered this topic yet. Okay, yeah, honestly, I don't think I've seen anyone cover this topic yet either, because I feel like most people, they talk about emotional labor in the trappings of a relationship, okay? And it's usually romantic relationships or marriage or something like that. But you're right, nobody really talks about emotional labor in the workplace because we do it a lot. And the reason why we don't recognize that it's emotional labor is because it's invisible. It's invisible. Emotional labor is invisible labor. So, what is emotional labor? Because I went and I looked up the definition of emotional labor so that I can share it with you all and we all get a better understanding of what it actually is. So here goes. Emotional labor is the unpaid, often invisible work of managing emotions, your own and other people's, to keep things running smoothly, make others comfortable, or maintain harmony. That is basically what emotional labor is, and it's not easy. It's a lot of work and it's very draining. This term emotional labor did not just come out on the internet. It was coined by Ali Hochschild, and it originally referred to jobs that require workers to regulate their emotions as part of their role. So, for example, think flight attendants, nurses, customer service. But now it's recognized as something that happens everywhere, especially in office culture. So, yeah, that's basically what emotional labor is. All right. So if you're at your job and you're managing other people's emotions, like you're calming down an angry coworker or a coworker is sad and you're trying to lighten the mood and make them happier so that they can work and function like an adult. Yes, that's definitely emotional labor. If you're soothing the boss's ego when they're in a bad mood, that's emotional labor. If you realize that your boss love flattery and love people blowing smoke up their ass, that's emotional labor because what you're doing there, you are regulating this person's emotions. These people are fucking weird. And if there isn't someone doing the emotional labor for them, the workplace can be even more toxic than it already is. And another thing is if you are diffusing tension in the workplace, like team tension, when it's not your role, that's definitely emotional labor. So imagine doing all of this while you're also suppressing your emotions. So all the girlies that are in customer service, we all know, because I've been there, we know what it's like. And, people that do well in customer service naturally are people that are not only well trained, but people that have high emotional intelligence. If you're smiling and being pleasant in spite of frustration at your job or burnout or maybe even grief, like maybe your cat died or a family member died that you were close to, but you gotta go to work and, smile. Like you can't cry and break down and bring that much attention to yourself. That's emotional labor. You're doing that because you want to maintain harmony at the job. Or if you're hiding your feelings, because everybody's always hiding their feelings and hiding exactly how they feel. Everybody is doing some sort of emotional labor. But I feel as women, I feel like a lot of that labor is passed on to us. If you're in a customer service environment and you're smiling and you're being pleasant, even if someone is being rude or threatening, that's emotional labor. And then we have this expectation from our gender as women. If you're always expected to be nice, always expected to be smiling, you're doing customer service and a random guy walks in and he's like, "Why don't you smile?" Because they think it's so easy, right? They think it's so easy. If you at your work and you're the one that is organizing birthday cards or the office potluck, or you're the one that is organizing the team gift exchange, even though it's not in your job description, that's a form of emotional labor and gender expectations. So, and if there was a conflict and you're the one doing extra damage control, yeah, definitely. Now, people of color, like myself and most of the women that are on this channel, and especially if you live in the United States and you work in corporate, a lot of a lot of people of color feel like they have to code switch because they feel that pressure. And they always feel like they have to mask their real reaction. So, masking your real reaction to avoid being labeled as aggressive or too sensitive or unprofessional, God forbid, that is definitely emotional labor. If you also managing microaggressions without escalating things or making others uncomfortable, that's also emotional labor. Because this is a problem in the workforce, and a lot of people will always be trying you, but you need emotional intelligence and emotional regulation in order for you to survive in a place like that. If you had a job and you're acting as the unofficial therapist, are you the office therapist? Yes, that's definitely emotional labor. People pay for that, and why are you doing it for free? If you're listening to others vent endlessly without reciprocity, because at the end of the day, there are people that will come to work and they would literally sit up there and talk about how bad their day was and how horrible their life is. And my husband is cheating on me, blah, blah, blah. And you have to sit there and listen to everything. That is not fair because when it's your turn to talk about your problems, they don't want to hear it. So that is free emotional labor. Do not be anyone's shoulder to cry on. Do not be the person that people want to confide in because that's emotional labor. And if you care about emotional labor and you don't mind doing it, fine. So at the end of the day, why is this emotional labor at the workforce a problem? It's because it's fucking draining. And it will definitely lead to burnout. Eventually, you are going to become burnt out at your job. But if you want that burnout to happen faster, you start entertaining these people and their problems and performing emotional labor. And that burnout is going to come and hit you like a ton of bricks. You're not gonna like it. It's not gonna feel good. And then you might even feel resentful. And of course, you are gonna be emotionally exhausted because this shit is fucking draining. Why would you do it to yourself? Another reason why it's a problem is because it is invisible work. Invisible work is the work that nobody gets paid for or no one is appreciated for. But the work is so very important that society cannot function without this work, this thing they call emotional labor. Because this invisible work it doesn't show up in your performance reviews. It's not showing up in your performance reviews at all. And you're not going to get promoted or higher salaries for it. So don't do it. And most importantly, emotional labor is always passed on to the women, way more so than men. So if you're a woman, automatically you are probably most likely already doing emotional labor at your job. At your job. So you have to make some assessment or reassessment and figure out where you want to go moving forward now that you have this information. And like I said, this emotional labor is always the woman's responsibility, especially as a woman of color, because women of color, we do more than our fair share of emotional labor, and it's time to stop. Let's talk about how to set boundaries in the workplace now that you know what emotional labor is. First things first, arrive at your job on time and leave on time. If your job ends at 5 p.m., if you are hired to work 8 hours and you're working at nine to five, make sure that you're out of that building by 5:02. Okay? Make sure you clock out at 5. Period. Another thing that you have to learn how to do, ladies, is to say no without explaining. And how do you say no? Here's some example. I'm not available to take that on right now. I'm not comfortable being in the middle of this, especially if they bring in drama. Or it sounds like something HR or our manager can handle. But most importantly, find creative ways to say no and do not explain. I'm sorry, I can't do it. I'm not available to do that right now. Sorry, I can't do that right now. You just keep saying no. Find creative ways to say no. Whatever you do, do not take on the office therapist role. From now on, you're going to be saying things like, that sounds really difficult. Maybe, maybe talking to HR or a mentor would help. Tell them that. Say, maybe you should talk to a professional. Because that sounds like a lot. That's what you need to say. You do not entertain them. Or you can say, you know what? Um, I'm flattered that you trust me, but I think this is outside of my role. Or I prefer to keep our relationship professional. Say something. Just say something, okay? Like I do not listen, I can't hold your hand and tell you exactly what to say. Just say something. But as long as it's saying no, it means no. Go ahead and say it and do not explain. And these tasks like organizing guests, birthdays, food, or being an emotional support team, or keeping the peace when tension arises, stop doing all of that. Do not accept those roles because you are not going to get paid for that. Because at the end of the day, some of y'all are too nice, and a lot of y'all are people pleasers, and you're not going to get fine life, people pleasing your way through life. It's not going to happen. You're not going to get fine life if you struggle to say no. And emotional labor is invisible. You will never get a promotion. You will never get appreciated for it. No one will acknowledge you for the work that you do because in this system, we focus on the tangible. Okay? That's the patriarchy. So just stop. Shut the fuck up. Stop being nice. Stop being the office therapist and learn to assert boundaries. So that's all I have to say, ladies. Thanks for listening.